Hey everyone, my name is Jake. I am 26 years old and I am from Brazil. But 5 months ago, I could not speak a single full sentence in English. Not even, how are you? Without thinking too much. I was completely lost. Today, I want to tell you how I learned English in just 5 months, without any expensive classes, without going to an English-speaking country, and without wasting my time on useless methods. But this is not just my story. This is your story too. If you have ever felt frustrated, stuck, or embarrassed because of your English, keep watching. Because I was exactly where you are. And I promise, if you listen to my full journey step by step, you will know exactly how to improve your English. So let's go back to the beginning. Because my journey did not start with motivation. It started with a big failure that changed my life. The moment that changed everything. I always wanted to work for an international company. My dream job was to be a software engineer at a big tech company. I loved coding, I was good at it, and I worked day and night to become the best. Finally, after years of hard work, I got my chance. I applied for a huge company in the US. The recruiter emailed me, "Congratulations, you are selected for an interview?" I was so excited. I imagined my life in a new country, earning a big salary, working with the best people. But then, the interview happened. I remember it like it was yesterday. I opened Zoom, and there were 3 interviewers, all native English speakers. They started speaking, and I felt like someone had pressed fast forward on their voices. I could not understand anything. They asked me the first question. "Jake, can you tell us a bit about yourself and your experience in software development?" I panicked. I knew the answer in my head, but the words did not come out. I said, yes, I am, software. I do coding. Uh, Many projects. Good. I am very good. They looked at me. The silence felt like a knife in my stomach. They asked another question, but I could not answer that either. In the end, one of them smiled and said, "All right, Jake, thank you for your time." I knew what that meant. I had failed. I did not get the job, not because I was not good enough in my field, but because I could not speak English. That day, I understood the power of English. It was not just a language. It was the key to my dream. And right now, I did not have that key. I felt ashamed, embarrassed, angry at myself. For years, I told myself, I don't need English. I'll just be good at my job and that'll be enough. But now, I saw the truth. Without English, I was invisible. That night, I made a decision. I would learn English, and I would learn it fast. Most people, when they start learning English, they do one thing first. They pay for expensive courses. But I did not do that. Why? Because I had already tried them before, and they did not work. A year ago, I paid for an online English class. The teacher made me memorize vocabulary lists, do grammar exercises, and study boring rules. But after 3 months, when I tried to have a conversation, I still could not speak. So I knew that expensive classes were not the answer. If I wanted to learn English fast, I needed something different. I needed a system that worked in real life. And that's when I started my 5-month method, which I will share with you now, step by step. Part 1. The first 15 days. The biggest mistake that beginners make is that they think they need more words. I thought the same. I thought, if I learn 1,000 words, I will speak fluently. But the truth is, I already knew hundreds of words, yet I still could not speak. So for the first 15 days, I did not study any new words. Instead, I did something much more powerful. I started learning how to use the words I already knew. Here's exactly what I did. 1. I made a survival sentence list. I sat down and thought, what do I actually need to say every day? I wrote 50 simple sentences that I needed in real life. For example, hi, how are you? Can you repeat that? I don't understand. I am learning English. I need a coffee, please. Every morning, I read these 50 sentences out loud. Not once, not twice, 10 times. At first, my tongue felt slow, but after 5 days, these sentences became automatic. 2. I started speaking to myself in English every single day. This is one of the most powerful things I did. Whenever I was alone, I spoke English to myself. For example, when I was in the shower, I said, I am taking a shower. The water is hot. I feel relaxed. When I made breakfast, I said, I am making eggs. I like eggs. They are easy to cook. At first, I felt stupid. But then I realized this was my private classroom. No one could hear me. No one could judge me. And in just 1 week, my brain started thinking in English. 3. I practiced 5 sentences a day, but with a twist. Every day, I chose 5 sentences from movies or real conversations. But I did not just read them. I copied them. Exactly. I repeated them 10 times, but with the same emotion, speed, and pronunciation as the native speaker. This helped me fix my accent and sound natural. By the end of the first 15 days, something changed. I stopped translating in my head. I could say basic sentences without thinking. I felt more confident. But this was just the beginning. Because after 15 days, I started the real practice. Part 2. The real practice begins. After 15 days of fixing my biggest mistake, I was finally ready to take the next step. I could say basic sentences without thinking, and I felt more confident. But I knew this was not enough. I did not want to just say short sentences. I wanted to have real conversations. I wanted to understand native speakers without translating in my head. I wanted to speak fluently. So I created a new plan. This plan would change everything. If you follow it, you will improve faster than you ever thought possible. I realized something important. When I tried to speak English, my brain was slow. I knew words, but I could not put them together quickly. I needed a way to make speaking feel natural. I started using a method that I now call the question-answer method. This method is simple but powerful. Here's how it works. 1. I asked myself a simple question in English. 2. I answered it immediately, without thinking too much. 3. I repeated the process with different answers. For example, I started with an easy question. Question. What did you do today? At first, my answer was short. I worked, but I forced myself to say more. I worked on my project. I worked on my project for 3 hours. I worked on my project for 3 hours, then I took a break. I worked on my project for 3 hours, then I took a break and had some coffee. Every time I answered, I added more details. This trained my brain to think in English and speak without hesitation. Another example. Question. What did you eat for breakfast? First answer, I ate eggs. Then, I ate eggs and toast. I ate eggs, toast, and a banana. I ate eggs, toast, and a banana because I was really hungry. I ate eggs, toast, and a banana because I was really hungry, and I love eating a big breakfast. I did this every single day for at least 30 minutes. My speaking speed improved dramatically. My sentences became longer, and I stopped translating in my head. One of my biggest problems was pronunciation. Even when I spoke English, I still sounded like a foreigner. Native speakers understood me, but my accent was strong. So I used the echo technique. This is the best way to improve pronunciation without a teacher. Here's how it works. 1. I listen to a native speaker, from movies, YouTube, or podcasts. 2. I pause the audio after each sentence. 3. I repeated the sentence exactly the same way, same speed, same tone, same emotion. For example, I took a short clip from a movie. The character said, "I don't know what you're talking about." I paused and repeated, "I don't know what you're talking about." At first it felt difficult, but after repeating 10 times, my voice started to sound similar to the native speaker. Another example from a podcast. It was a beautiful day, so I decided to go for a walk. I paused and repeated, "It was a beautiful day, so I decided to go for a walk." I did this every day for 30 minutes. After 1 month, my pronunciation improved so much that even native speakers started saying, "Wow, your English sounds really natural." I knew that vocabulary was important, but I also knew that memorizing word lists does not work. So I needed a better method. I used the story method. Here's how it works. 1. I took 5 new words every day. 2. I created a short story using all 5 words. 3. I read the story out loud 10 times. 4. I used the words in my real conversations. Example, new words: excited, invitation, party, arrive, surprise. My story. I was very excited because I received an invitation to a big party. When I arrived at the party, I got a huge surprise. It was my birthday party. I did this every day. After 3 months, I had learned over 1,000 new words without memorizing anything. One of the biggest problems learners have is that they think in their native language first, then translate into English. This makes speaking slow and unnatural. So I trained my brain to think in English. Here's how. 1. I described everything around me in English. Example. When I walked outside, I said in my mind, "The sky is blue. The weather is hot. I see people walking. That man is wearing a red shirt." 2. I asked myself questions and answered in English. Example. What am I doing right now? I am sitting in a chair, drinking coffee, and writing in my notebook. 3. I wrote my daily journal in English. Every night, I wrote about my day in English. At first, I wrote simple sentences, but after 1 month, my writing became more natural. After a few weeks, I noticed something amazing. I was no longer translating. English words came naturally into my mind. One of the things I did was simple but powerful. I made a rule. Every day, I had to speak English for at least 2 hours. No excuses. If I had no one to talk to, I talked to myself. If I didn't have time, I spoke while doing daily activities, cooking, cleaning, walking. If I felt lazy, I reminded myself, English is my future. I cannot quit. Part 3. My final breakthrough. Now that I had built the habit of listening and repeating, I wanted to push myself further. But I also realized something very important. Just listening and speaking wouldn't be enough if I didn't understand the grammar and structure of English properly. I didn't want to make mistakes that could confuse people, and I definitely wanted to sound more natural. I started observing the way native speakers structured their sentences. Every time I heard a sentence, I didn't just repeat it. I asked myself, why is this sentence structured like this? For example, I heard people say, I have been learning English for 5 months. But in school, I had learned, I am learning English for 5 months. That was my first big realization. The English we learn in school is often different from the English people actually speak. So I started researching the differences. I learned about tenses in real-life use. When do people use the present perfect tense? Why do they say, I have been learning instead of I am learning? I found that small details like these made a huge difference in sounding natural. I wrote down common sentence structures and tried using them in my daily practice. One of my biggest challenges was prepositions. On the bus, but in the car. Why? At night, but in the morning. Why? I kept a small notebook and wrote down confusing prepositions with examples. Whenever I had doubts, I searched for answers online or listened to how native speakers use them. To take it further, I started writing a daily diary in English. Every night I wrote about my day. At first, my writing was very simple. Today I went to work. I was tired. I ate pizza. It was good. But I wanted to improve. So I asked myself, how do native speakers write? I read blogs, books, and news articles, and I noticed how they structured their sentences. Then I tried to copy that style in my diary. One thing that really accelerated my learning was shadowing. I found videos of native speakers, put on headphones, and repeated every word immediately after them, matching their speed and pronunciation. I did this for at least 20 minutes a day. In just a few weeks, my pronunciation improved dramatically. Another trick that helped me was watching English movies with subtitles. But instead of just watching passively, I paused after every sentence and repeated it. I focused on pronunciation, tone, and rhythm. Slowly, my English started sounding more natural. At this stage, I realized something crucial. English is not just about words and grammar. It's also about confidence. Many people know English but are too scared to speak. I made a decision. I would not be afraid of making mistakes. I started speaking to people in English whenever I got the chance. At work, at the store, with friends, I spoke even when I was unsure. And I noticed something surprising. People understood me. Even if I made small mistakes, they didn't laugh at me. This gave me the confidence to keep going. But then, I faced my biggest fear, talking to native English speakers. I was terrified that they wouldn't understand me or that I would freeze. So, I came up with a strategy. I prepared 10 common conversation topics and practiced them every day. How was your day? What do you do for work? What's your favorite food? I practiced answering these questions fluently. Then I took the leap. I joined an online group where people from different countries practiced English. At first, I was nervous, but soon I realized everyone was there to learn, just like me. I made friends from different countries, and we practiced together. This not only improved my English, but also made learning fun. As I reached the final stage of my English learning journey, I felt an unshakable confidence growing inside me. I was no longer the same person who had been rejected because of poor English skills. I had transformed myself step by step through consistent effort, practice, and the right mindset. Now I want to share the last and most important lessons I learned so that you too can achieve fluency. One day I was speaking to myself in the mirror, as I had done so many times before. But this time, something was different. I wasn't hesitating. I wasn't translating in my head. The words were flowing naturally. It felt like magic, but in reality, it was the result of months of effort. That same day, I decided to test my progress by having a deep conversation with a native speaker. I joined an online meeting where people from different countries discussed various topics. At first, I was nervous, but I reminded myself, I've worked too hard to doubt myself now. And then I spoke. The words came out clearly, confidently. I didn't struggle to find the right words. I understood what others were saying without feeling lost. People listened to me, nodded in agreement, and even asked me questions. It was an incredible moment. That was the day I knew I had achieved fluency. 5 months after I started my journey, I applied for my dream job again. This time, I wasn't the same Jack who had walked in nervously months ago. I wasn't the guy who hesitated, who felt small, who couldn't find the right words. No, this time I walked into that interview room with confidence. I sat in front of the interviewer, not as someone who feared English, but as someone who had mastered it. I spoke clearly. I answered every question with ease. I wasn't just speaking English. I was owning it, and I could see it in their eyes. They were impressed, not just with my language, but with my effort, my persistence, my transformation. A few days later, I got the call, and I will never forget that moment. Jack, congratulations. You got the job. For a second, I couldn't believe it. My dream job. The same company that rejected me before. But now they wanted me. My starting salary was $5,000 a month. $5,000. More than I had ever imagined earning. I just stood there, holding my phone, shaking, my eyes full of tears. The first thing I did? I called my parents. Mom, Dad, I did it. My mother started crying on the other end. My father, a man who rarely shows emotion, simply said, "We always knew you could." And in that moment, I realized I wasn't just doing this for me. I was doing it for them too. With my first salary, I bought my father a beautiful watch, something he had always wanted but never bought for himself. For my mother, I bought a gold necklace. She had sacrificed so much for me, for our family, and now it was my turn to give back. When I handed them the gifts, they refused at first. "We don't need anything, son," they said. But I shook my head. "No, this is my way of saying thank you. Thank you for believing in me, even when I didn't believe in myself." And that was the moment I understood. It was all worth it. Every struggle, every late night, every moment of frustration, every time I felt like giving up. It was all worth it. Key lessons from my journey. Now let me share the most important things I learned in my journey that helped me become fluent in English in just a few months. 1. Mindset is everything. Most people fail to learn English because they believe they can't. I used to think the same way, but the moment I changed my mindset, everything changed. I told myself, English is not difficult. I can learn it just like any other skill. I stopped saying, "I am bad at English," and started saying, "I am improving every day." If you think you can't do it, you won't. But if you believe you can, you will find a way. 2. Surround yourself with English. I made English a part of my daily life. I changed my phone's language to English. I watched only English content. I listened to English songs, even if I didn't understand all the lyrics. I followed English-speaking influencers on social media. Every day, I was feeding my brain with English. I also made sure to speak and think in English. Whenever I looked at an object, I would name it in English. If I saw a car, I would say, "That's a blue car. It's moving fast." Small things like this helped me build my vocabulary naturally. 3. Speaking without fear. Many people are afraid of making mistakes, but mistakes are part of learning. I used to be scared of speaking, but then I realized native speakers don't care if you make mistakes. They appreciate your effort. So I forced myself to speak. I spoke to shopkeepers in English. I asked strangers for directions in English. And I even started talking to myself in English whenever I was alone. The more I spoke, the better I became. 4. Active listening and shadowing. Listening is just as important as speaking. I trained my ears to understand spoken English by listening to English podcasts, audiobooks, and conversations. But I didn't just listen passively. I practiced shadowing. Shadowing means listening to a sentence and repeating it immediately, mimicking the pronunciation and rhythm. This helped me improve my accent and fluency. 5. Expanding my vocabulary. Smartly. At first, I tried memorizing long lists of words, but I quickly realized that was useless. Instead, I learned words in context. I focused on phrases instead of single words. For example, instead of memorizing the word happy, I learned phrases like, I feel so happy today, and that movie made me really happy. Learning in context made it easier to remember and use words naturally. 6. Grammar without books. I didn't spend hours studying grammar books. Instead, I learned grammar naturally by listening and speaking. When I made a mistake, I noted it and corrected myself. For example, I used to say, he go to school. When someone corrected me, I understood the correct sentence. He goes to school. The best way to learn grammar is by using the language, not memorizing rules. 7. Consistency over perfection. Some people try to learn everything perfectly before they start speaking. That's a mistake. I didn't wait until I was perfect. I started speaking from day one. Even when I only knew a few words, I used them. I made a rule. Every day I will do something in English. Some days I spoke for 10 minutes. Some days I wrote a short paragraph. Some days I listened to a podcast. The key was consistency. Even on days when I felt lazy, I still did something. You don't need expensive classes. You don't need a perfect environment. You just need a strong desire and a commitment to practice every day. Imagine yourself 6 months from now, speaking English fluently, confidently. Imagine the opportunities that will come your way. Imagine how proud you will feel. Start today. Speak, listen, practice, and never give up. Your future self will thank you. This is not just about learning English. It's about changing your life. And now I want to say something to you. If I can do it, you can do it too. It doesn't matter where you start. It doesn't matter how bad you think your English is. What matters is that you start. Today. Right now. I know it's hard. I know it feels impossible sometimes. But trust me, the only thing standing between you and fluency is consistency. Stop doubting yourself. Stop making excuses. Surround yourself with English. Speak, listen, read, write, every single day. Make mistakes, learn from them, improve. Because here's the truth. The pain of discipline is temporary, but the pain of regret lasts forever. So, what will you choose? Choose discipline. Choose growth. Choose success. Your journey to fluency starts now. If this story inspired you, like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'll be with you every step of the way. Let's do this together.